So are we good to go from a technology perspective? Yeah, thank you.
Sure. There is a delay, so it's not that they weren't answering, there is a delay.
So first, just attending and viewing the meeting. People can attend the meeting in person in the first floor of the library building, the room we're in currently, or streaming the meeting on the library's YouTube channel. And a recording of the meeting is made available after the meeting on the city's website. So now a public comment period. Community members are invited to address the board during this time. Doesn't look like we have any community members for a public comment period, so we'll going once. We'll keep moving. And I guess I'll have a start with roll call. Teresa.
Present.
Thank you. Nick.
Present.
Angela.
Present.
Chloe.
Present.
Steve. Here. And Adam here. And do I have a motion, motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
Thanks, Nick.
Second.
Thanks, Teresa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our meeting of April 19th is in session. And then hopefully everybody had a chance to review. We have a new format for the meeting minutes and agenda this week, or this month, excuse me. Everybody had a chance to review the agenda ahead of time. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as outlined?
So moved.
Thanks, Teresa. And all in favor of tonight's agenda?
Aye.
Right. Motion approved. So now we can go ahead and for updates and reports. I think we'll first move to the Rochester Public Library Foundation report. And Brenda is here.
We have a ribbon coming up. We have invitations out. We'll be sending a press release out. It's the big thing that we're working on right now. It's April 27th at 3:30 at Fire Station number 4, which is on 41st Street, near Carousel Flowers and Pax Christian Church. And the youth center parking lot is going to be available for parking, so it'll be convenient. The bookmobile will be out there issuing library cards. So we're really inviting the press, city council, anybody who wants to come out. It's free for everybody. We'll have some door prizes, so hopefully everybody can make it, see how cool the new technology is.
Thanks, Brenda. Any questions for Brenda, Bookbox, or the foundation in general? Thank you. Move on to the Personnel Committee update. I'll give a brief update. At last month's meeting, we had a closed executive session to review the annual appraisal for Karen in the director position. And as everybody knows, we agreed and endorsed the proposed language in the committee update and the content there. So since the meeting, I had the chance to meet with Karen, discuss in more detail and provide some feedback on the potential to bring back additional updates and things to the library board moving forward. So we've outlined a few items. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to speak to that directly. I put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, you had asked me to. So I will be working on a plan of some of the things that I'll be working on and doing over the next year. And so I will be bringing that back to the May board meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll be excited, looking forward to that. So I guess any questions from the board on the content or mechanics of the personnel action? Thanks, everybody, and thanks for the feedback last month on the content. Next, Teresa, do we have an update for Selco this month?
Well, I am officially trained in and on the board, so we now have a representative, and that's my report because I haven't been to a board meeting yet.
We had been without one for quite a while, very long time. So this will be really great to have that connection to the Selco board, have that representation. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Just moving quickly, Friends of the Rochester Public Library. I know Val's here. Any items?
Yeah, I'd like to report that for the month of March, the bookstore made $7,000. So they're continuing to go gangbusters. If you're interested in games, they are having a sale. They have tons of excess games. Some that are gently used, some that are still shrink wrapped, role-playing games, all kinds of things that they're going to have a sale this coming Saturday. They're going to be open I believe it's 10 to 4, extended hours. So double check some emails that are coming out. I think they'll have a blurb in the library patrons email that's going out later on this week if you need more details on that. The online sales group that sells to book wholesalers as well as maintains Amazon and eBay accounts for the first 3 months of 2023 has made almost $8,000 in their sales. Our web pages have been refreshed and streamlined and updated. And I just wanted to publicly recognize Elena Sessions for all of her time and efforts on this project and her redesign recommendations and all the time that she spent in implementing the updates. National Library Week is next week. And we've submitted a letter to the editor of the Post Bulletin to recognize National Library Week and to ask the community to thank a librarian or thank a library worker for the wonderful library that we have. We're also going to be leaving some treats in the staff lounge next week. And in 2019, the Friends had started a scholarship process for a staff member who would be continuing their post-secondary educational pursuits. It's an amount of $1,000, and that application is now currently open for library staff through April 30th. And then it's library administration who reviews those applications and brings forth a worthy recipient to the Friends group to receive that. So hopefully the next month or two we'll know. Last year we didn't have any applicants, so it just all depends on where staff is in their educational pursuits. And that's all I have for Friends report for today. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Val. Well, next, we'll just move to the consent agenda, and it threw me for a loop this week with a new format, the consent being moved further down. So I guess I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined.
I would move to present the, or to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thanks, Steve. Second from Angela. Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. So next, we are moving quickly here, Karen. Get to the reports and recommendations, but let's start with the changes to the city charter.
Yes, so included in your package are two things, both a letter of the talking letterhead with the talking points for Adam to take to the city council when the public hearing is held May 1st. That is the final firm date. May 1st, there will be a public hearing on these proposed changes. It's been noticed in the paper, so they're committed. And so in your packet, there were talking points really highlighting that, the governing structure has been in place for 118 years and the library successfully operated under that structure. The proposal to alter how the library director reports and moving the reporting structure from the board to the city administrator, that really changes the board from a governing one to an advisory one. And the current structure does provide the library board, with that oversight to ensure that the strategic direction is implemented throughout the organization. We also noted that the Charter Commission itself was not unanimous in their vote. It was a 4-3 vote to make the change. And Olmsted County representation would also be limited if the board is changed from a governing to an advisory. Currently, the governing piece of the Olmsted County relationship is through the library board. And 15% of our cardholders are county residents. Important to note that, and the county does provide more than 10% of our funding every year. So that relationship and that role is very important. We also touched upon the fact that there really has not been a problem identified with the current structure. There were also, this is coming at a time when there's a record number of book bans across the United States. And the board can take a pretty strong stand for intellectual freedom last year. So any comments or thoughts that we didn't capture? A lot of these really came from the discussion we had last month, and then also with the executive team. Any other things that we didn't capture that we need to share?
I did write a pretty detailed email to my ward council member, which I shared with you. So feel free to use any of that you want. But the other point that I made in there was that it's hard to understand why the park and the library are considered under the same proposal. Because those are, as I said, are in the email, are two different animals. I mean, we both serve the public, but that's where the similarities end. And you've got a city director who I'm sure is very capable in what she does. And any city director that administrator that they will have in the future will be equally competent. But that person, unless she or he has a library degree, is not going to know a lot of things that you deal with on a daily basis. So the other one was the library board took a deliberate stand against censorship in October. I mean, you might want to express why that matters in relationship to this change. How will that affect our ability to respond to any censorship challenges? I think the proposal will weaken our ability to address that. And I mean, to make the change that they're proposing will weaken this board. You know, when you change something to an advisory board, we invited him to send it to his colleagues if he wanted to. So I don't know.
Who was your council member?
Wall, what's
Norman Wall.
Norman? That was a couple of weeks ago.
I had asked about the demographic information, so thanks for providing that for the county. Is that 15% of patrons or users of the library that aren't represented by the city council? Or is that 15% of the total? Okay.
Yeah, 15% of our cardholders are county residents and not city residents. There's another small percentage that's outside of the county as well, but that isn't, it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, I'm in the county, I'm a county representative on the board. And from my perspective, I don't want to lose that voice. I don't think the city should have control over it.
Yeah, I am as well. I don't want to harp on that too much.
Right.
But I think it's an important point.
What's your best sense of the driving force behind this proposed change? The main impetuses for it?
So at the Charter Commission meeting, the explanation that I heard, if I am capturing it correctly, was that it would better describe what the current relationship is. I think there's disagreement from the library board that is an accurate description, because the library board has acted in a governing role. The Parks Board has acted in a governing role. So there is disagreement. There's disagreement among the Charter Commission too. I mean, I think that's why you saw the 4-3 vote over the perspective of, does this change the board into more of an advisory role? Does this capture what truly is currently happening? And does it capture what the makeup of the relationship is with the board and the director of each organization? So there has not been an identified problem. So.
Yeah, I read Nick's email to the council member, and that was like sort of the main question, right? What is the?
Well, I don't know the answer.
What is your identified problem? Yeah, well, thanks for following up, Nick. And if anyone else has the opportunity or the desire to do that, I'm sure that would be appreciated before the May meeting or potentially help. But hopefully everybody has the May meeting on their calendar if they want to attend.
And to confirm, it will be its own special public hearing. It is not during the open comment period. It's very specific to this item. So
One other suggestion I made was maybe we can look to have some better relationship with the city administrator. We don't have anything formal. I don't recall any interactions that I or this board have had with her lately.
And
Maybe that's a kind of a soft compromise.
Yeah, I think it's a good thought. You know, the personnel committee for the board a few years ago was involved in recruitment and replacement of the director and interviews and things. And originally it was just members of the library board. And I asked for the city administrator to be involved. And it didn't seem like it was sort of an olive branch. It was like, we need the feedback from city administration and others. And
I mean,
So
I think if we just sat down with the city administrator, okay, how can we make this relationship more fruitful and productive?
this is an open partnership. We appreciate feedback.
Have a conversation.
and you've also had meetings with the city council chair too, that I think
Sure.
is also a good step in a good relationship.
Think outside the box a little.
We have 118 years of history here that we're working towards.
So if I'm to capture, expand a little bit on how the standing against censorship and how changing an advisory into an advisory board would potentially affect that.
And would overall weaken the board. You might come up with some other issues.
And anything.
But the idea is to have the city administrator evaluate both the parks director and you, as though it's kind of one action. And it's not. That's one thing that she's looking. She's looking at two very different animals. And does that do justice to both of them? I don't think it does.
Thank you, Karen. Next on the informational items, I know you had one other item. If you wanted to address that, informational items or?
Yeah, and we can do that at the end, budget update. Do that first or we can do that second?
Up to you. The only other item we had was the book box update. So.
Let's go ahead and do the book box update because it's very exciting. And I want to point out, Jeremiah has been working and sharing an intern with the city communications. And the intern worked on these rack cards for the book box and also worked on a how-to video. And it's incredibly short. So we'll go ahead and show it all so that you can see how it works. Because I think it's a nice, fantastic overview of how to use the book box and exactly what it is.
The Rochester Public Library Book Box is an easy and quick way to check out books and movies. Scan your library card with the barcode facing up and enter in your PIN number to open the door. There's a lot of movies and books to choose from for both kids and adults. Take your item you want to check out and firmly close the door. Then the book box will scan to know what's been taken out. The book box will then ask you if you'd like a receipt or not. The receipt will come out next to the library card scanner. And don't forget to take your card. When returning an item to the book box, be sure to put the item in the correct area sitting up with the spine facing you. Then, close the door, which will make the book box scan for what you have returned. It'll ask you if you want a receipt to take with you to confirm your return. We hope you enjoy having library materials located right in your neighborhood.
That's the book box. Yay. Yay to Jeremiah and to our intern for putting that together. If you get a chance, feel free to swing by the fire station and check it out. It is open between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. It's right in the lobby of fire station number 4. So you all check it out. Questions? I do want to note that this is kind of a trifecta because we had funding from the Friends, funding from the foundation, as well as library CIP funding that and other library dollars that went to this project to make it happen, because it's much more than just getting a box. There's the getting the collection, there's getting the wiring, so the box can actually work and talk to our system. It's all of those things. So a lot went into it, and we're excited to see how it works in the space.
I assume it's serviced periodically. So.
We do have, and that was part of it too. We do have a teammate that was brought on to work on that. Part of his role is checking on it. If items get returned there, we're asking folks to not return library or bookmobile items to the book box, but to use the book box in and out with the items that go in and out of the book box. But we know that occasionally an item will get left in there. And so we do have a teammate that will be able to go and check.
And then the titles are periodically changed.
Yes.
I can't remember if this was asked or talked about the last time we discussed the book box, but are there performance indicators or things of success and whether we'd add a second or third or fourth?
Absolutely. So one of the first things that we're looking at is how this potentially improves access, and Kate can chime in at any point. One of the things that both Kate and Jeremiah worked on is a postcard survey that was both mailed out to residents living around the book box, and then inactive library card holders living in and around that book box area. So at our June meeting, we'll have an update on that, and you'll get to hear some feedback and information about that. Obviously, we'll be monitoring what's checked out. We can tweak the collection. Let's say if we're getting loads of children's materials checked out, we can kind of pivot a little bit on what we're providing in there. And just overall looking at, staff time that it takes, the money that it takes, and how effective and used it is from with our card holders, and if that improved access to library materials.
When it checks out, it'll show the zip code that the patron comes from. You have those statistics. He's shaking, he's nodding his head. Yeah, so you might find that it's actually a zip code where that book place is located.
And next month, we will actually show you one of our tools that we have to look at the disaggregated data of the market penetration rates, so the number of card holders we have per census tract. The book box is in an area that has a below median market penetration. So 3 zip codes or not zip codes, census tracts were selected that have lower cardholder saturation rates. And those were the ones that were selected that are right there where the book box is located. And that's what we're trying to look at to see if we have, more cardholders that are actively using, and also just more cardholders that register and get a card and maybe are exposed to the library because of the book box.
So what would the mechanism be for them to register and get a card then? Is it the same? Do they have to, it's all online and do that? Or?
So there still is that piece of verifying yourself to get a library card. So that still is a piece that we're hoping to get a lot of card registrations on that at the ribbon cutting event. We'll be having the book mobile there, which is super great, makes it very nice and easy to get library cards, and they're used to creating library cards. So
That would be great, maybe with this, of just saying, great event to register for a card.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's our goal for sure.
So if it shows increased use, then it might be an incentive to use it somewhere else.
Potentially. Yeah. Also factoring in amount of staff time that maybe it takes to operate, because again, all of these things are unknown. So
about how many individual items are in the book box?
just, do you remember, Jeremiah, the number of items in the book box? Is it 200? I may be making a number.
Own a bit less. If you've got larger books, they'll take a little more. And then you don't want to cram it really full or people are pulling things out and it falls. So I believe we're somewhere in the 140 space. And then that just gets kind of regulated with checkups of does it need more items put in because it's looking a little empty, and then balancing that with what comes back.
So is it real-time updates in terms of what the balance of books are in there? So if you have a run on it and all of a sudden half your books are gone and other people come and it's half empty, are we tracking, is tracking real time and providing reporting on daily basis, or how's that?
We had Andy here because Andy could speak better too. My understanding is we do have that capability, but again, having a person that is available that can be checking on the actual box, looking at the materials that are in there and taking out anything that needs to be returned here. All of those are things that that's why we do pilots.
Yep.
To get good information.
In that space. So you can clearly see through that, just if all of a sudden it looked empty, then we could run out there.
Is there a limit on how many items a person can check out of the book box at any given time?
It's not enforceable.
Okay.
So it's whatever
I
the
think you're
person
okay.
goes from the container, but they all get charged to that person.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
And the bookmobile services that area too, just like anywhere else.
What is the closest stop?
We have a couple stops that are near it. Not exactly there, but there is a relationship, right, between where the book box is. I do know that the book box staff have a regular schedule for going out there, reviewing and refreshing. And then the camera is more like something along. So if you want the best sellers though, that's where you want to go, is the book box, because you'll be able to use.
That's great.
It does have, and that is an important piece to note. Similar to our book bike, it has its own collection. So that collection belongs there. You can't put a hold on it. You got to go to the box and check it out. Same with the book bike. When we have that out, you go to but it tends to be these, the really great things that you can't wait to get to. So I encourage all of you to try it out and let us know how it goes.
One more question. We can probably have questions all night.
I
But
know, it's so much.
can you see the collection online if you were to go on the
No,
website?
the book box collection is shadowed. It is shadowed for a reason. Because if you were to see, something's at the book box, people out there, you might be disappointed because we own at least 4 times the number of items that it holds that are specially designated for the book box. You can't put the items on hold. So they are intentionally shadowed. It is intended as a browsing collection. Think of it as your lucky day.
It's a lottery.
You get all the good stuff. If you want to read Colleen Hoover, go to the book box.
That's fantastic. I think it's certainly innovative and something new and fresh. So
And we are making no promises that there is a Colleen Hoover at the book box right now, for the record, just in case.
But if you're going to find one, that would be where you would find.
All right.
yeah, thanks, Gary.
Okay, so the last thing is the budget update. So I just wanted to give you where we're at in the budget process. So we have been given feedback on, it is a very lengthy process, right? So we're at the latest draft, the latest round for the budget. The first part was just the budget line adjustments, and we made several requests. some highlights. Some we got, some we're not getting. We're not in that. Weren't necessarily approved. So our contractual changes, those were really approved. There's nothing we can do about signed contracts and agreements. So those and some net zero transfers. So shifting, for example, the not buying CDs, but instead moving that to our downloadable audio, which I was getting used like crazy, but not as many people using CDs. So those were of course approved. The one that we had on request that we had put in was some additional funding for our part-time budget. Moving to the citywide wage grid, we knew that was going to be costlier to cover our part-time employees, and we received half of that request. So part of the deck that was stacked a little bit against us is we have years of not spending that down, those temporary salaries down. So it has gone underspent many years. We will most likely be overspent and have to use a little bit of reserves to cover for this year. So in next year's budget, we did, get some of that. So we'll see how that all plays out when you have over 40 part-time employees working varying hours. It can be, there's some wiggle room that can happen. Sometimes we were underspent because it was really hard to find part-time employees. And most recently, it was really hard to find employees, as many folks know. So we will know more towards the end of this year on what that potential impact might be. The other thing that we did ask for, we were hoping for an increase in our budget line for materials with the increase in cost for our print materials. And that one did not make it in, so that one is a little bit of a bummer. We did put a request in very separately. We had tied our budget line adjustment for our print materials. We had that one separated out as a budget adjustment. We are putting in a request in a decision pack, so something new, more money for our downloadable content, which also is part of our materials budget. That decision pack, those proposals, or whether or not they're making it through the administrative phase of the budget process, we will not hear about until the 1st of May. So we'll have an update on that at the May meeting. So it's challenging because we know we have lots of collection use. Folks are really using our collection like crazy. Just looking at our circulation report, we're up 13%. Over our total collection use is up 13% over 2019. So folks are using our things. Also part of our request, we met with city admin and talked about a CIP request. We had put in a CIP request for replacing our AMH, that's our automated materials handling book drop, basically the nice, wonderful machine that if you haven't gotten to see it, it's the highlight of everyone's tour. And it is slowly dying. And it's like the machine was listening to us as it died this last weekend. Thankfully, we had a teammate in city facilities that was able to come over and they were able to patch it together, and we'll see how long it holds. There is a request in to actually use our IT revolving fund to replace this. So this will not be going into the CIP budget. We have had conversations. Our IT revolving fund, we had been saving for to replace our server, and we instead have moved to the cloud and will not be replacing that server. So that's where we're going to be planning on taking that money. The good news is by using that money that had been set aside for a while for the server replacement, we can start the process this year instead of having to wait next year if we're in the CIPs. So expect more information on that in the next coming months, because we will need to potentially go through the complicated bidding process for that. And so yeah, we'll have an update on that and hope we're just hoping it just, chugs along until then. So budgeting and the budget process continues, and we'll probably have an update every month until we get to the August, September timeline when City Council really starts looking at it. So, any questions?
Thank you, Karen. Moving quickly, we're to the question and answer session of the agenda, our roundtable session. Questions from the group? I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Steve? Angela? Angela second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
I did not jinx this. I said it was short.